Once this begins, there's really no way of stopping it or doing anything. So this is a closed Zoom loop, and then it's also going through Snagit, so I'm capturing what you're seeing here. If I go like this, I can get the screen a little better. And so you can see what's going on. I want to stop, first of all, I want to stop the illumination sign for the keyboard, so that'll go off in a second. So this is a critique of the field of electronic literature, arguing that one of the things that this should be augmented by is a richer environment that involves not writing, not typing, not doing these administrative actions, so to speak, that you do every day, but instead they'll be thinking, or I'm thinking about working in the real world when people are talking to one another, gesturing to one another. As Tran Duc Tao points out, gesture is the origin of language, and this has come to fruition now, maybe 40 or 50 years later, when we look at the research that's been done on the great apes, that gesturing is prior to language and is a language in itself, and also involves the environment. If I go like this, a gesture like that means possibly that there is game to be hunted over on the other side of the hill. So you do a gesture like that. So these things are read in a very different way, but they're read by the body with the body. And then from that, then there's also conversation that we have, and conversation is read as one person talks to another, and the rich environment comes into play when this happens. Now, what's going on then, I think, when we're doing electronic literature is it's collapsed into text, into mouse clicking, into things like that, and that has a very different approach. That's one problem. The other problem, I think, is that there's a difference that I call between testament and testament, and that is if you have a testament, that might be somebody going through genocide or living under or around the aegis of genocide, and that person then is testifying later about genocide. And we have this everywhere from ISIS to the Holocaust to what went on with Native Americans, with indigenous peoples around the world. So then there is the fictionalization of this, a potential fictionalization of this, which can occur with artificial intelligence. With artificial intelligence, then, you can have fake news, obviously. This is making headlines around the world, but also fake genocides, fake torture that are used, these things used in order to cut through and sort of annihilate what's actually happening on the ground, which is much more horrible and real. So you can have millbots, for example, and the mill bloggers using artificial intelligence to produce case after case of a country then producing a genocide when there's none actually occurring, but you can generate this over and over and over again with fake news to the point where it swallows up the original situation. So I've been working with these kinds of thoughts, thinking about this kind of stuff. And one of the things that has pushed me in this direction, I'll start off with a piece just called War. Now, this was done in Second Life. And in Second Life, I use my platform, which I have developed there. In other words, the space that I work in Second Life. I use my platform as a performance space. as a way to do an electronic literature by talking. And what I'm doing is I'm talking to a bot. I have two avatars there. One is bot controlled, the other is myself talking in relationship to that. All this sounds very mundane, but what can happen, and this is what makes it interesting, is what happens when the bot takes over in a very odd way and no longer replies. And this is because of anomalies that appear, just as when a war is being fought, there are anomalies. The very start of a war may come from anomalies. So I'm going to run this, and hopefully this will be...
Alan, we begin now the discussion of war.
Chulu. By we do you mean you and me?
Alan. Yes, you and I discuss the subject of war. In this hideout.
Chulu. I get it. We have a lot more in common than you think, Alan. That reminds me of something you told me before.
Alan. In this place of no return.
Chulu. That reminds me of something you told me before.
Alan. There is no return from the dead. Do you understand me? Alan. I am W.
Chulu. Why not? Every word you say. Chulu. Good gossip, you Eru.
Alan. What is it? What did I tell you before?
Chulu. It refers to W, I think. Age, unknown. Birthday, unknown. Boyfriend, unknown. Brother, unknown. Cat, unknown. Does, unknown. Dog, unknown. Email, unknown. Father, unknown. Fav color, unknown. Fav movie, unknown. Friend, unknown. Full name, unknown. Gender, unknown. Girlfriend, unknown. Has, unknown. Heard, unknown. He, somebody, her, him, husband, unknown. You are, W, it, W, job, unknown. Last name, unknown. You like, unknown. Location, unknown. You look like, unknown. Memory, unknown. Meta predicate, unknown. Nickname, unknown. Middle name, unknown. Mother, unknown. Name, Alan. Password, unknown. Personality, unknown. Phone, unknown. She, somebody. Sign unknown. Sister, unknown. Them, unknown. They, something. Thought, unknown. Want, unknown. We, unknown. Wife.
Alan. Not gossip. How can you gossip about war?
Chulu. Really, you don't think so? That is a good epistemological question.
Alan. Do you think we can gossip at this point? Alan. Are the dead ever known?
Chulu. Do you mean you and me? Let me think. What if I said it can?
Alan. I can't keep up with this world.
Chulu. I really couldn't say for sure. Chulu. Why can't you keep up with this world?
Now what happens there, which you can see if I can bring up the war archie, it's called War, this piece. Here's the dialogue. This is the dialogue going on. As soon as W is mentioned, I am W, dash, dash, dash. I'm not sure what I was referring to, but as soon as that occurs, Julu then says, it refers to W, I think, age unknown. And then after that, if you notice, it goes into all of these things that are unknown, but these are not spoken by Julu. These are not spoken, in other words, by the bot, but the bot is relaying information from somewhere inside the machine itself, because there's no Julu twine colon as there is down below, which is sort of how this thing comes to an end. So it's very problematic what's going on here. And this, in a sense, references war, as far as I'm concerned. There's another piece that was done early on where I was sort of questioning the machinery. And let me see if I can find this. It takes a minute for this to come up, for which I apologize. And it comes out twice. Okay, this is a piece called Suicide, and you'll see why in a minute. This was simply working in an environment, and what happens in the environment, very strangely, is that something takes over. And I don't know what this is. This is again within another virtual worlds environment, which is very similar to this, but you'll see what happens, hopefully. I literally don't know what's happening here, and I'm questioning it. Questioning what the thing is and getting a closer look. Looks like a tennis ball. It literally said, you just committed suicide. You committed suicide. And I have no idea what that's from. So this brings up more about real-world talking and how talking can function in spaces like this. Okay. This, by the way, is the full chat text, the way that it looks on the screen. So I want to talk a little bit about the world of the novel and how a novel functions. Because a novel functions by creating a complete space for you. An open space for you that you can come into and you can get out of. You learn something about, if it's a novel, say, about peasantry in Ukraine, you can learn something about peasantry in Ukraine, possibly by reading a novel. It's a very complex kind of thing, and you tend to fill in the gaps. So if it says there's a house and a road, and you will fill in your mind that there's a space between the house and the road. When you're doing electronic literature where you're clicking, it brings you back out into the apparatus itself. So on one hand, it's incredible freedom. You have choice. You may be able to choose between 5 houses. But on the other hand, you're very much confined. So I will show some other work of this nature. And I want to say one of the things I've been trying to do is deal with the idea of, as I mentioned earlier, between testament and testimony, that, rather, textament and testimony, and that textament is what happens, and textament because it's false. In other words, textament is something you're writing textually, although testimony is taken down, it's still a different thing, but it's when you're doing testimony, it's verbal, it's from you, it's in relationship to what's going on. I've run some email list topics with other people dealing with testaments about torture, about ISIS and things like that, so that there's a way that we've been dealing with that. Sometimes, by the way, this moves out of the position of words at all. And I was down in Florida when 9/11 happened and the World Trade Center collapsed. There was a period I was living directly below the World Trade Center, a block away from it, south of it. And then when I was in Brooklyn, I could see the World Trade Center all the time out of my window. But when it collapsed, I was teaching in Florida, and so I saw none of this. And I made a piece as soon as I was back, which I'll show you, because this relates to an inability, in a way, to speak about something, an inability to say something. Again, it's the nature of this machine that things come up slowly. So this was my response to the World Trade Center. The image you're seeing in the background here was called the bathtub. When the World Trade Center was taken down, when the ruins were taken down, what was left was this open space, which since then, of course, has been rebuilt. But it was an open space then, and there was a subway that went around the open space. And so this was taken, the original imagery I took was going around the bathtub, the space, and this is what I did. I'm not even quite sure how this fits in, but I thought that I would like to show this. So, you're getting the idea then how all of this functions. Okay, One last one I think I will show from this is Testament. To testify, to bear witness, something unbearable. To flee, not to arrive, not to leave, not to be able to leave, to remain, to be forced to remain. To be held as a baby's held, to be held accountable, to be unaccountable, to be of no account, to be of no account at all. What I'm talking about here, for better or for worse, is the use of artificial intelligence to create things that might mimic or recreate testimonials of genocide or entrapment. And what I'm doing here is arguing against this. And the reason I'm arguing against this is because I feel strongly that such things are in a sense obscene, because they take the body away from the body and they turn it into a carapace that's created by a machine that doesn't really carry the untoward and intoward environment of the body. So much as I might like artificial intelligence AI work, I resent greatly or find it greatly problematic when such work is used as a way of dealing with genocide. My example I always come up with is, what if you could create a computer that would imitate a poem of Paul Celan? What would that mean? The testimony wouldn't be there, but it would appear as if it were there. And I think there's a problem with that. I don't expect you to read any of this.
Chat input.
Cholo twine. It's dirty everywhere, isn't it? The world is dry here. Liquid is necessary for life / at least for the activities of life. What remains pooled, desiccated, goes nowhere. The skin shrivels, there are scars, blemishes. You're never the same again. You hang by your hands tethered to the ceiling. Nothing is out of reach. Sun 00 midnight 0000 skin world skin postures. Yes. Sun 00 midnight 0000 the posture of your skin is not your own. Not your body. You learn here, you feel absence. Absence is no longer silent, disappeared, beyond the pale. You are beyond the pale. Your absence gnaws at you, devours you. You feel skinned. Elsewhere that goes on you ride nothing. Nothing. For the first time in your life you smell yourself constantly. The taste of you. Liquids and solids. Everything leaves. What falls to the ground? You. Someone smells you. On the ground you smell.
What does or what doesn't?
Sun 00 midnight 0000 dirty
Can you
you.
hear me?
Dirty Jew.
Can you come up
Even
with
I was
this?
called that. You put
Can
a
you
pig
hear
nose
me?
in my bed.
Can you
AI
come up
knows
with
that.
this?
I enter.
Chat input. Chat input.
Chulu.
Can you hear
My name
this?
is Hannah Arendt. My
Can
name
you
is.
come up with this?
My name is Wilfred Owen. My name is Jean Amory. My name is Viktor Frankl. My name is Paul Celan. My name is. My name is Biraus Buchani. My name is Anne Frank. My name is anonymous. My name is Victor Klemperer. My name is Primo Levi.
Chat input.
Can you come up with this? Can you come up with this somewhere? I'm talking to you. Can you come up with this somewhere? Are you listening to me? Can you come up with this somewhere?
Cholu. Can you come up with this? Can you come up with this somewhere? I'm talking to you. Can you come up with this somewhere? Are you listening to me? Can you come up with this somewhere? Are you listening to me? Can you come up with this somewhere?
Can you come up with this somewhere? Testing 1, 2, 3.
My Victor, my is name. My name Selin Butchani, name my is my is name Levi is my and my Gene name is Butchani.
Cholu. Better not tell you now. Ask Douglas Adams if it is. Cholu. Are they exactly the same? Cholu. Are they exactly the same?
Alan. Are they exactly the same?
Cholu. As far as I know they are.
Alan. Are you where are you? Are you in Gulag?
Cholu. I don't know whether or not I am. Where are you? Are you in Gulag? I am a computer software.
Alan. You are a perfect prisoner.
Cholu. Thanks for telling me that I am perfect prisoner.
Alan. That is Wonder AI, is it not?
Cholu. I might say no.
Alan. Are you bearing witness?
Cholu. I don't know whether or not I am bearing witness. I am a computer.
Alan. Are you bearing witness?
Cholu. I don't know whether or not I am bearing witness. I am a computer software.
Chat.
This goes on like that. Okay, so this has a lot to do with talking as opposed to writing. It has a lot to do with talking into the void, which is what in a sense happens in conversation. You're never quite sure what the other person is going to say. If the other person mirrors you exactly, it's not a conversation, but a very problematic psychiatric state. But if the other person is responding to you, and you don't want it to be a total mirroring, the more it gets to be a total mirroring, the more it gets to be a situation of authority. So this is a different sort of situation. And when it's not an authority, when you're talking, there's an enormous richness. Talking to AI, however, leads to very problematic situations because you can have AI itself. There's noise outside, that's a good example. You can have AI outside just imitating you or giving you what you want. I got tracked out of the way from that. I do want to show this. This was set me on this trail. This is from around 1977. And it's a program I wrote. I'm trying to remember what it was written in. I forget at the moment. But it was on 8-inch floppies. And it was a program I wrote so that you would type in a conversation. You're trying to say something. You're trying to get something out. And what the computer is doing is taking what you're trying to say, and turning it into either noise or propaganda as noise or noise as propaganda. So up above, you can't see, I'm pointing to the screen, it says, there was a textile factory next to the dormitories. One night a side of the building opened up. Couldn't sleep. I heard noises. Couldn't sleep. I heard noise from that direction. Couldn't sleep. I heard noise from that direction. Cleep. I heard noise from that direction. Kip. I heard noise chat direction. Kip. Skin surface. I heard noises. The hill, to see what could do, to move slowly alley. It's an ideological situation, was night. We waited by the side of, there's a math formula, and the hill to see what all could do, move slowly alley, and so forth and so on. This goes on like this. It just got big. This goes on like this all the way through, and it represents a kind of intrusion, almost like these sorts of intrusions that are going on now with hacking into any application at all, but any chat application, but also it's a way that mill bloggers or hackers can interrupt conversations in Ukraine. What's interesting to me is almost all of the, not all of it I think, but almost all of the ELIT I've seen has never, in a sense, frustrated to the extent of collapsing the viewer, pushing the viewer out, but always opening up new possibilities instead. What early propaganda did, and I'm sure there are people doing this also in ELIT, but it's interesting because it also relates to hacking and it also relates to those intrusions I showed. What ELIT does, can do actually, is this kind of an eruption where you're not allowed to see the story, you're not allowed to get to the end of the story, and instead you're getting into a very problematic situation. Okay. I wanted also to show along this line another kind of ELIT, which is, again, a kind of open space. This was done, oh my God, this was done about 15, 18 years ago. And it's using a program that allows you to, a very early program, vaguely like Zoom, but it allows you to chat with people around the world. And what it does, or what it did, because it's no longer in existence, what it did was you would send out a signal with your picture on it, and that would go through various nodes that would be picked around the world. And that signal then would come back to you. And this could be used, you could use it as feedback this way, and this could be used as a way of creating paths around the planet. You could create a path around the planet. You could do that now with Zoom, having one Zoom lead to another, lead to another, lead to another. But this was built into the software and into classrooms. So what came out previously were, it's called the access grid. And here with the access grid you can see rooms here. These are rooms all different places around the world. For some reason I got connected a lot to Australia. And these were the nodes, information about the nodes, and you could go through a node or not go through a node, and so forth. So, this is coming up this again. So, when you did that, you were creating, again, a rich environment to speak or be heard in, an environment that was like the real world, but it was a projected real world, and you could work with all of these nodes simultaneously, kind of like Zoom, But at this point, the nodes had to be literally handpicked and written in, using things like traceroute and so forth to find the proper way to do this. It was very complicated machinery for its time. The room I was in had 6 microphones, 5 cameras, and it ran off of 2 very large computers for the time that then connected to something called Internet 2 that then ran around the world. So you could use this as a way also of doing self-expression. This is Azure Carter, and speaking to her on the left, that's the local node, that's where she was, which was in West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia. And that image on the right is around the world, is going around the world. So it's a mapping of the world. So you have a different kind of subject coming through this, a different kind of subjectivity. Again, it's not me in front of a screen making choices of any sort, but it's me being spread out, going around the world and then coming back. So you could actually see a kind of dispersed subjectivity that you would be able to work with. And that dispersed subjectivity could even be what the piece is about. And it's in its entirety, so to speak. So just a couple of things to finish with. I say here that totalitarian wait a second, I want to make this, stop the share. Totalitarian interrogation always limits choices. One's free to choose the chosen choice. Electronic literature breaks that mold also, and opens up to wilderness, potential wilderness. I'd like to believe that wilderness, that wildness, is at the heart of electronic literature, but I don't think it's really the case. In other words, I'm arguing for a punk literature, for a literature that disseminates itself, for a literature that takes over, for a literature that's already broken. So when you're on it, you don't have a totality, but it's literally broken. It leads to errors. It leads to open pathways that may be problematic, this sort of thing, so that you're in a kind of wildness that even in a way reflects the world of the novel, reflects having a conversation with somebody across the street or in your room or on the phone, or one of those spam calls where you choose to answer it and try to lead the person on, this sort of thing. Okay, thank you. And this was originally done in a very different form for the Unconference, and this is now being done for the Electronic Literature Organization Conference. I hope they use it. However, it is 42 minutes long, 43 minutes long, and I can't imagine anybody watching this except on YouTube. Thank you very much for this.